Deloitte Digital's Andy Main and top digital experts discuss data security, brand trust, and consumer privacy. Please welcome them to the stage.
Well, good morning, folks. Thanks a lot for having us come by today. I'm Andy Main, the head of Deloitte Digital, and we're going to make the whole topic of data and consumer trust a lot of fun, because we have three wonderful panelists, starting with Alysia Borsa, who is the Chief Marketing and Data Officer of Meredith Corporation, Tracy Heller, who's with David Yurman, and Tracy is the head of eCommerce. And last but least is Karthic Bala, who is the Chief Data Officer of Condé Nast. So we're in terrific hands to make consumer trust and data a ton of fun today. So, I mean, it's in the media everywhere, trust and data. Daily, it's filled with articles and news and stories about it. And maybe, for the first question is, when you think through the customer experience and what excites consumers to deal with brands, and you think about data, how is data being used to really turn on an amazing experience?
Sure. So at Meredith, we take a holistic approach to data and understanding our consumers. So when I took over as the Chief Data Officer 4 years ago, what we did was we centralized all of the data analytics and research teams across the organization, which means, I have the team that focuses on how do we use data and insights for our advertisers. Then another team that focuses on working with the GMs of our digital properties and the editorial staff. We also have a team that focuses on how to drive consumer revenue, not just the traditional 45 million print subscriptions, but also how to drive e-commerce, which is a significant part of our business, and we have 8 new D2C offers in the marketplace. So we all work together, and you can imagine the cross-learnings that there are. And the common goal for my team is to understand consumers. It's kind of that simple. Profile, understand, and predict the behaviors of our consumers. And when we do that, that benefits all aspects of the business. A recent example, more from an advertising perspective, is as we start to work with the new D2C advertisers out in the marketplace, the ones that are growing, we can tap into our legacy of who we are, the team that focuses on driving consumer revenue, using data and insights to drive subscriptions and e-commerce. When we think about how we focus on data, and then I'll give some specific examples, there are a few areas that we really focus on at Meredith. So one is taxonomy, right? The depth and breadth of our taxonomy is significant, and I think stands out in a lot of the categories that we are in. The depth of the data that you have, and therefore the depth of the insights and the depth of the experiences, is really based on how you classify your content and your experiences. So this has been a core focus of ours. We also focus on understanding our consumers' intent, not just their interests. 60 to 70% of the traffic that we see comes from search. So consumers are coming to us with intent, but we're also developing experiences that really engage our consumers. So click to cart, add to shopping list, how to plan a garden, a lot of different experiences and that help us not just understand interest and intent. And I use the example, I'm a busy working mom who loves gardening, but right now for the next 2 weeks, I'm planning my family's vacation. So we need to make sure we understand consumers and understand those intent signals to really deliver the right content and experiences to them based on their changing needs. And then third really is about insights. So we talk about data, and we're all fortunate enough to have good first-party data, but the data's only as good as understanding the so what from the data, right? What's the so what? What are the insights? And so we really want to be insights-led with every application or product or feature that we launch. So in terms of some recent examples, we're obviously, for years as all of us here on stage, we're using data to drive content and experiences and product. But a couple of, we're absolutely going down the path of how can we use data to deliver more customized and personalized experiences. So one of the examples around that is we launched Tastes. So personalized recommendations on all recipes where based on your preferences and behaviors, we recommend new tastes for you. The engagement, huge, like 18% click-through rate, and even more importantly, 40% plus of users who engage in the experience take an action. I don't want someone to just read something. I want them to take an action, to share or to save or to print. And something we're launching on People now, so this is happening in real time, is we're launching what we call internally sagas, which is really about tapping into the super fans, so the people who, right or wrong, love the Kardashians, right? The royals, they want everything to do with Meghan Markle, crime stories, whatever the case might be. And what we're doing is customizing and using algorithms to serve up chronological events associated with, it might be Kim Kardashian. So we're serving up, if someone chooses that they want to understand more about Kim Kardashian, we're literally showing them almost like a chapter book of everything they might want to know about Kim Kardashian, because we know that they don't want to just know what she's doing today, believe it or not. They want to know what she did last week and last month and last year and 5 years ago. And so we're using our data to customize that, and the engagement, has been through the roof. We're also using AI. So we launched Barkeep, which was a chatbot last year to recommend, one-to-one experiences with our consumers to recommend cocktails. We're doing that with gardening and health. And last week, we literally just launched using AI recommendations to pair wines with recipes, right? So this is all about how we're using data in sort of very recent ways to move down the path of customizing and personalizing. And then the last example, I know we're talking about consumers, but we really focus on using our data and insights for advertisers too, right? And we absolutely use it for activation, right? Leveraging our data and insights to activate. But we're also working with our advertisers sort of more upstream. And we just launched something that I'm pretty excited about called the Meredith Product Studio, where we're working with clients, literally to leverage our data and insights to ideate, come up with a new product, and then help develop that product and bring it to market. And we've actually been doing this for the last couple of years. So we've been working with clients who are like, tell us what's going to happen, like what are the trends that are going to happen in the next 12 to 24 to 36 months? And we've helped to inform their actual product development process, which is super exciting. Heavy lift, don't get me wrong, but super, super exciting. Or they've asked us, like, help us understand like a new use case for my product. And I always use this example. We worked with a company who sells tomatoes. And they're like, help us figure out how to get tomatoes like into higher usage of tomatoes. So we were able to predict the growth of tomatoes at breakfast, particularly related to ethnic cuisine. So we were able to highlight sort of the beginning point of the growth curve related to that. We built custom audiences against the people we knew were going to be interested in that type of content and experience. And then we launched a campaign with them, which was super successful, sales lift, high click-through rate, 13%, some double-digit click-through rates. But even more importantly, the consumers that engaged took an action. And I keep going back to this because I don't want them to just see something. I want them to engage. So they saved or they shared or they did something with the content. I think that's sort of the success story of really using data and insights. Again, this was for advertisers, but again, we're looking to use our understanding of consumers, both for consumer content and experiences, but also advertisers.
Great. Thank you. So love the whole moment-driven thing, the data to be relevant in people's lives. Awesome.
Yes.
So let's move on to the jewelry business. And so Tracy, like in your business, how are you using data to deliver the most amazing experiences?
Yeah, so similarly, jewelry is obviously a very highly considered purchase, and we're also moment-driven, right? So we're really using data to figure out, okay, where are customers in their life cycle? What are their passion points? How are they consuming their news? Where are they consuming their news? How are they eating? Where are they vacationing? And then capturing all of that to do a couple of things. Deliver content that's more relevant to them, not just about jewelry. We know they're interested in jewelry, but delivering content that's relevant to their lifestyle as a whole, and delivering it at points in time, throughout their journey, on a day, on a week, on a month, and then most significantly, the so what, capturing those moments when they're looking for jewelry, right? So whether it's an anniversary or a birthday or a special event, we want to be there with them on that journey and then hone in on the moments when they're going to take an action. And I think that, as the head of e-commerce, I'm obviously hyper-focused on capturing that digitally, but I think it's important to highlight that we're also leveraging that same data for our in-store experience. So what we're currently looking to do and what we're optimizing on is how do we take all of the data that we have, not just from digital, but from in-store, how do we take those passion points of our consumers and then arm our store associates with that data so that they're able to deliver a better experience when a customer walks in the door, making sure that they have all of the information at their fingertips that we have on the digital side so that they're creating really compelling customer experiences in person. And so that's something that we have been focused on and we're going to continue to focus on throughout this year.
And Karthic, you're the Chief Data Officer at Condé Nast, so you've probably got a thing or two to say on this topic.
Yeah, I'll just add a few things. They've covered a lot of things that most media companies do. But on a personalization front, we've spent a lot of our time kind of looking at cross-device matching, understanding a profile of a person across multiple devices, bringing it all together. So giving them a unified experience is a big priority. And the other thing, we've personalized, we've used the content across various brands to recirculate people within our properties. For example, you were talking about travel. So you might be on, let's say, on a recipe site, but if you're planning your travel, then there's probably traveler content that's relevant to you. So instead of using, meaning we use those widgets like Taboola and Outbrain and things like that, but there's also content that can be monetized in this ecosystem, and what's the value of that content in that click. So we've done a lot of analysis on understanding the value of a click, so lifetime value, so we can then interject using data and analytics into the customer journey or consumer journey to then figure out what the right thing is to personalize in front of them. So that's one thing we've done. The other thing is what Alysia was saying about taking our data, making our first-party data available to our marketing partners is a big part of our focus. I'll give you a very simple example. We understood the consumer's behavior in a specific geolocation, and we told the retailer gave them all that information. So they literally had a store in that location stocked with things that people like within that geolocation for what kind of clothes they like. And that was a big success. There was nothing on sale. It was basically tailored for them. And now the question is, how do you scale that across the country or the world? And that's a much bigger problem, but that's kind of our focus.
Yeah, terrific, thanks. So as you can hear, data and experience and really collecting that first-party data is the name of the game to get that personalization and build relationships. So let's now move on to the whole topic of trust. And Karthic, I might just keep on having you maybe answer this question. So in light of the increasing concerns and maybe perceived lack of trust with some of the big social platforms, what are you doing to maintain consumer trust in your business? And then we'll just go to Tracy and then Alysia.
So one of the big advantages we have at Condé Nast is our brands are trusted, right? To begin with, these are brands that have survived for some of them over 100 years. So that by default gives us trust, but then at that point, then you take that trust and actually maintain it by giving the customer the right experience and giving them something they're asking for and not overdoing it. Sometimes in personalization, if you get into this extreme of personalization, you get into this mode of retargeting or clickbait. When you click on something, you keep giving them that information more and more, but that doesn't give meaning. That, again, technology can take you that far, but then you have to introduce, from a customer's perspective, what do they want? And to build that trust, the brands help. A lot of our content is vetted by the same people who are writing the print content, so we don't have a digital team that just goes out there and just, like I have a friend, for example, he's a blogger, he's a travel blogger, he works in Long Island, he's never traveled. So he just Googles stuff and writes a blog. So obviously that's not ideal in any kind of circumstances, but that's what these platforms promote. As long as you have enough followers and people who like you, you can keep doing more of that. But what we have is very trusted sources and the content that's coming from them. And we look at all our content creators as influencers, so that helps. So they're actually influencing the world. And bringing that all together to build that trust with the consumer is very critical for us. And the other thing I would say is purely from a data side, what we've done is we've removed all the PII data, anything that's identifiable, and away from our database. So there is no joining back because we actually deliver magazines. We have home addresses and a lot of information. So we've taken that and separated that completely. So the whole database used for personalization is segment-based and anonymous. So that obviously takes away this whole idea of you're subscribed to one magazine, so I'll give you more content on that kind of same topic.
Thank you. And then Tracy, in your business, I mean, as you described before, I mean, you deliver moments that are highly personal and lifetime milestones in people's lives. And what are you all doing to maintain trust with your customers?
So obviously it's a little different for us as a brand because we're not looking to monetize consumer data in any way. I mean, our consumer data doesn't leave the David Yurman ecosystem. So I think that, you know, what we do is we have a lot of checks and balances in place to make sure that exactly that. Our consumer data is not leaving the David Yurman ecosystem. So we're not giving it out to third parties. You know, we'll obviously use that data within our ecosystem to create those better experiences, to make sure that we're aware of consumers' special moments, but we're only using it internally. And in terms of any sort of external communication, you know, we comply with the strictest sort of rules, and we're constantly asking customers, you know, are you okay with this? Can we share this data? Can we share that data? And so they're very much a part of that process. But again, you know, with us, it is a little different because our business model is not such that it's a revenue stream.
Yeah, terrific, thanks. And Alysia, yourself, you know.
Well, I think I would echo what Karthic said. I think in our business, we are both fortunate that our brands are truly trusted. You know, our editors are, you know, top notch, and the content and the experiences we deliver are truly authentic. I'll take a bit of a stance just talking about like privacy policy and how we manage that, right? We have a cross-functional team that meets on a regular basis to really make sure we're understanding what data we're collecting, how it's being used, are our policies in place, and are we communicating and being as transparent as possible with our consumers? So that's always, you know, we've been pretty conservative about that for years. We've been pretty conservative about that long before I got here. And I think it goes back to the trusted brands and wanting to maintain that trust, because that's critical to our success. And I do think, though, as we move forward, those of us publishers or anyone who's in this industry, I think we need to start taking even more of a proactive stance, right? Not just check the box, we did GDPR, or check the box, we did California, but how can we help educate consumers more and help them understand and make sure it's simple for them to understand, because it's really complicated, right? How data that's being collected, how it's being used, by whom, where. I mean, it's complicated. So I think that we as an industry sort of need to lean into that over the next little while, and ideally take it together with everyone who's sort of in the industry. So I think that's something for us to work on.
Terrific. And so with the, you know, the advent of GDPR in California, some of our favorite topics, I mean, there is a shift in the public's view of privacy, and certainly a shift to people managing their own data, or that need to manage their own data. And, you know, if I choose to sort of make it, you know, available for others to use, maybe I get a reward or some incentive to do so. But just maybe quite keen, since you mentioned privacy, it might be quite keen in your own view on this whole notion of people owning their own data and making it okay to share that with others. And if it's shared, is there a benefit that one gets back in return? So just quite keen on your views there.
Yeah, I absolutely think that should be the ultimate goal for the industry, is to put more control of consumers' data in their hands. But we're not ready for that yet. The market is very fragmented, right? Every app you download, every browser, every connected device, everyone's collecting different data, different ways, you know, different settings. And there's also a lack of consumer education, right? We have to think about the masses here, right? Consumers are leery of what's happening in the marketplace. There's been a lot of press, but I don't know that they understand. So I think that should absolutely be the goal. I think there are a couple steps we could take in the interim, though. I think first, you know, we are advocating for some general federal legislation to sort of protect consumers across the board. And then, like I said earlier, I think as an industry, we should start being proactive and at least being more transparent with consumers, educating them, making things easier for them to understand. And then eventually we can get to that place where we can put more control in the hands of the consumers, but it has to be done in an easy way. again, it's so fragmented today. There's so many choices and decisions that consumers, data is being collected on us everywhere we go. You walk by a store, your app's collecting that you just walked by Saks. There's data being collected everywhere. And so we need to make it simple. And we were talking earlier, I've had some conversations with companies about leveraging blockchain for this type of application. And I actually think that there's a lot of potential there, but it's too early and we're not quite ready. So we should absolutely keep moving down this path and understanding it. I just think it's going to take a little while to get there. But I think we do owe it to consumers to put more control in their hands.
Thanks. And then Tracy, what's your view on this one?
I completely agree. I think the long-term goal is that people should be managing and the gatekeepers of their own data. But, I think consumers don't know right now how is their data being used. So it's impossible for them to manage their own data when they don't know. And I think you make a really good point. It's on the brands, the publishers, the social media platforms to be much more transparent about how they're using their data. I think, I'm a good example, and I think I'm a millennial, so I'm happy to sign away a lot of my data privacy rights in order to have better digital experiences. But that doesn't mean that I want my information being sold to Cambridge Analytica. I don't want my information all of a sudden in the hands of bad actors. So, but how do I know when I'm signing away my privacy that there's a difference between, okay, we're going to personalize your experiences, and but we're also going to be selling your data to these other third parties that are going to use it for all types of reasons. So again, I agree, we're not there yet, but I think that it's going to have to happen pretty quickly, that these brands and publishers and social media platforms are going to have to get ahead of this and start being really transparent about exactly what they're doing with their data when you click that box and say, yes, use my data.
Great.
And then I think consumers will be able to make better decisions.
Great point of view. Thank you. And then Karthic.
I'll just add, meaning I totally agree to whatever was just said, but the only thing I'll add to it is I think it's a matter of also taking a stand from a publisher's perspective, and transparency is a critical part of it. The big part of it is, where's your data actually going? It's not that you're capturing data for a personalized experience or for an e-commerce experience, whatever. It helps me because imagine a world where I cannot search for an airline because they don't capture data about me. That won't work. But what is that data being used for? And one of the stands I've taken at Condé Nast is we'll never share the data with any other party unless it's aggregated. So we do not do that, and any contract that comes into my attention, that if many clients ask for this all the time, and we just took that stand and saying we're not sharing our data, period. And if other publishers can take that kind of a stand, I think that kind of creates that momentum to say, look, we are different from these other companies that sell data to Cambridge Analytica because your data is safe with us. And if you're sharing, for example, for whatever reason, for analytics or any other purpose, transparency is key. So the client, the customer can know this is my data and it's going to this person or this company for what reason. And they should have an option to delete it if they don't want.
Terrific, thanks. So our final question, we've just got like a few seconds remaining, and Alysia, maybe to you for this one to begin. So, you build trust into your brand, and arguably that gets you greater loyalty with your customers and so on. What type of business results could we expect by achieving this level of trust with brands and data?
Well, I think just to oversimplify it, right? When consumers give us the right to use their data, that means we understand them better. Therefore, we deliver content and experiences that provide value. There has to be a value exchange. By taking their data, it means we understand and curate, whether it's algorithmically or through our editors to deliver experiences that add value. That absolutely drives business right now. We are directly driving business results. Not only are consumers more engaged, but we're able to use the data to make sure that the advertising we deliver is also more relevant. So absolutely, having access to data is critical to our business, to providing good experiences, but also to driving bottom line results.
Terrific, thanks. And for your business, what kind of results can you expect?
Yeah, same. I don't want to be too repetitive, but of course we're able to create better digital and in-store experiences, as I mentioned, the more data we have. But I think even from a brand perspective, to even take that a step further and say, we can use our data to create better jewelry, for example. What is working and is not working about what we're producing, and how can we do a better job of producing the type of jewelry that our customers are telling us works for them, that they want, that they like. And so then that trickles down to every step. It starts with the jewelry, and then the digital experience that they're getting when they're browsing online, the in-store experience when they're browsing and shopping in store, and then even the post-purchase experience. What happens? How are we able to better serve that customer after they've converted, and continue to engage with them in a way that's relevant for them? So we're really able, and us and every brand, I think, that's producing goods is able to use the data at every stage.
Thank you. And then Karthic, just to wrap up.
I would really echo the same thing. We're using our users' data for better performance, better personalization, and things like that. And we just announced